I start with the engine ticking like a tired heart after a long run. The dashboard clock a small pale moon at 3:13 a.m. The city washed in sodium orange and puddles of tired stars. The streets thin with last shift cooks and ghosts of plans that never happened. And I am a taxi driver with a spine shaped by years of leaning toward strangers. The night a blanket that does not warm, rent coming, insurance past due. A son who will not return my calls, a marriage already ash, a quiet that eats at the edges of my courage. And still I circle the blocks because work is not a dream that visits you. Work is a door you open even when the room is cold, so I roll toward the train station where concrete breathes the lonely steam of arrivals that mean nothing to me. And I tell myself one more fare, one last turn, one last mile to justify the gasoline I've burned with my doubts. And I park under a flickering light that looks like a tired angel trying to decide whether to fall or to fly. And that's when I see the figure on the curb, not waving, not rushing, simply there like a sentence I forgot to finish. A coat that could be gray or blue depending on the streetlight. A face I almost recognize the way you recognize a song the first bar in. And before I can lower the window, the back door opens with a soft click like a prayer you whisper so quietly you only hear it with your heart. And a voice says good morning in the kind of tone people use when they believe morning can still be good. And I say where to, and the voice gives me an address I know only as a point on a grid where the river curves like a scar. A place with warehouses and a view of the city that makes you feel both small and held. And I tap the meter out of habit though, lately I've been tapping to prove I still count. And we glide into the almost silence, tires stitching wet seams through the road, wipers sweeping the sky off the windshield. And the car fills with that passenger silence that tells drivers to leave the night alone. But then the voice leans forward, not with weight, but with attention. The way a hand hovers before it heals, and says you are so tired of being brave only when no one sees it. And the words land in the cab like a clean sheet on a hospital bed, snapping the dust off my fear. And I say excuse me, because you never expect to be known by a stranger at this hour. And the voice asks how long since you sang in your own kitchen. How long since you kept a promise to yourself? How long since you believed you could love the part of you that failed and keeps failing? And I want to be angry because a fare is a transaction, not a confession. But the anger dies on my tongue because it has no oxygen in this kind of presence. And I laugh the way you laugh when a lot that is stuck for years finally clicks. And I ask if they're a counselor, a pastor, a poet. And the voice says, I am what you need for the width of this road. Nothing more and nothing less. And we pass the hospital where my father died without telling me how to forgive him. And I say I'm trying, and the voice says you are not trying. You are doing, you are surviving. But survival is not the only skill you own. And the words feel like someone wiped the fog off a mirror. And my face looks almost like a man I could forgive. And we stop at a red light. And the city exhales and I tell the truth I never invoice. That I carry regret like spare tires I'll never mount. That I walk around the crater where my marriage used to be and assign it weather reports today grief. With a chance of memory because I don't know how to plant anything there. And the voice says the earth does not ask you to explain the forest before you plant a seed. And the light goes green and we move. And the river appears to our left like a promise you can't cash but you can keep. And the voice says you think. Your son wants a father who wins, but he wants a father who is real. He wants the sound of your apology, not the geometry of your defense. And I feel something inside me lean toward that possibility like it's heat on a winter day. And I say, but I left when I should have stayed. I stayed when I should have fought. I spoke when I should have listened. And the voice says none of this is a sentence. It is a road. It is the exact distance between the man you were and the man who is learning to come home. And we pass the diner where lonely is always on the menu. And the neon throws confessions across the hood. And the voice says do not confuse paying for it with paying it forward. Do not confuse punishment with honesty. Let mercy do what muscle cannot. And the words fold around my shoulders like a jacket I forgot I owned. and for a minute the cab feels taller, as if the roof learned to breathe and the city seems younger, as if someone just gave it back its first morning. And I say, "Who are you?" And the voice says, "You already know." And the truth is, I do not know like knowing a name. I know like knowing a sunrise without checking the clock. I know like knowing water by the way it substitutes for thirst. And my throat tightens because when you meet this kind of knowing, you don't argue with it. You let it rearrange your furniture. And I say the address again to keep the ordinary alive, and the voice says, "Thank you for staying at the wheel when everything in you wanted to park and disappear. Thank you for keeping your so-so car a sanctuary for the broken people who crawl in at 2 a.m. Thank you for the granola bars you buy with your own money and the water bottles you pass back without fanfare. Thank you for the way you call everyone boss and buddy and ma'am, because you believe names should never be the first thing to die." And I have to blink hard, because dignity is a soft animal and no one feeds it. And suddenly here it is, eating from a stranger's hand. And we turn under a rail bridge where steel makes cathedrals out of shadows. And my passenger says a thing I didn't expect to hear outside a church. "Today is not your last chance, it is your first." And the sentence touches down in my chest, like landing gear on good ground, and I inhale as if oxygen was new. And I say, what if I call my son at sunrise and leave a message with no defense? Just, "I miss you, and I'm sorry, I want to try again." And the voice says that will be more than enough for dawn. And I say, what if I can't fix the money? What if the numbers won't bow? And the voice says, you are not the sum of bills you cannot pay. You are not the inventory of your mistakes. You are a man who can ask for help and offer it, who can say no and mean it, who can say yes and keep it. And I laugh because this is too clean and too hard and too possible at the same time. And I think of the little notebook in my glove box where I wrote down scripture years ago and stopped when shame told me I was no longer the kind of man who earned comfort. And I reach at the next light, and the passenger says, "Read the one that still stings." And I find a page with creases like an old scar, and I speak softly into the night. "Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you." And my voice breaks on "help you," because help was the word I retired out of pride. And quiet falls steady and kind between us until the skyline reappears like an invitation you thought was lost in the mail. And my passenger says, "When you get home today, open the blinds and let morning touch everything that forgot it belonged to light. And in the afternoon, take a bag of groceries to the neighbor who pretends he doesn't need anyone. And when you pass the church with the peeling paint, go in and sit in the back and forget how to earn what is already yours. And if a hymn wanders, do not argue with it. And later when your ex-wife texts you about a form you forgot to sign, answer with respect, not repair. And when your son answers your voicemail with a silence that sounds like a door thinking, stand there and wait. Do not knock until your knuckles bleed. Just wait with your chest open the way windows wait for wind. And if he says no, stay a father. If he says maybe, stay a father. If he says yes, stay a father. And I feel my hands steady on the wheel, the way hands steady when something larger than fear sits down beside them. And we are almost to the address. A pier that sticks into the river like a finger pointing at whatever is on the other side of regret. And I pull to the curb and put the taxi in park, and the meter murmurs, a number that looks small compared to the weight that just rolled off my ribs. And I turn to look, and the back seat holds the shape of someone who has already stepped out of the world that uses doors. No slam, no draft. Only the impression of presence, the way a warm chair tells you a person was there and loved the sitting. And on the leather is a single sprig of something I do not recognize. Maybe rosemary, maybe memory, maybe some plant that grows only where grace has been. And I yank the door handle and step into the river wind, and the pier is deserted, except for a gull prison yard pacing, and there is no coat, no shoes on wood, no figure shrinking into distance, only water pretending to be dark and the city pretending to be asleep. And a strange laughter climbs into my throat because I have $3 in tips and a fare that vanished. and I want to be mad at being given a miracle on credit, but my anger can't find me. And I close the door and sit, and the cab smells like rain and something clean. And the meter is still counting because mercy does not care about my equipment. And I reach and click it off. And for a while I hold the steering wheel the way some men hold a railing when a ship moves from storm into a more honest sea. And dawn lays a thin coin of light on the river, and I feel a lift in my chest. Not triumph, not explanation, just lift. And I drive home through neighborhoods that look both forgiven and the same. And I go in and open the blinds and let the apartment remember how to become morning. And I rinse a bowl and cut an apple and eat it the way a man eats first fruit after a fast he didn't know he was keeping. And at 7:02, I call my son and say, your dad loves you and is sorry and wants to begin again, even if again is small and slow. And when the voicemail beeps, I sit on the couch with my palms up, as if holding nothing is a kind of prayer. And later I take a bag of groceries to the neighbor, and he says you didn't have to. And I say, I know, and he says thank you anyway, and his voice trembles like a rope that just decided not to break. And I pass the church with the peeling paint, and slip into the back, and a woman in the third pew sings as if she has never been abandoned by light. And I let the notes find the ruins and stay there. And when I step out, the day feels like a room I can live in, not a hallway I have to sprint through. And the next night I drive again. Because rent is still rent and the body still needs food. But the city no longer feels like a test I'm failing. It feels like a canvas where God uses the least likely color. And I add a small sticker to my dashboard with a hand-drawn word that wasn't mine last week, hope. And I keep a few extra waters in the back and a blanket and a list of shelters. And I listen to the way silence breathes when someone sits down behind me. And I learn to recognize the pause that means they want to speak and the one that means they want to be carried. And sometimes the drunk man pays double, and sometimes the suit pays nothing, and sometimes a nurse leaves a candy bar with a thank you sharper than money. And sometimes on the corner by the pier, I slow down for no one in particular and still feel seen. And on an ordinary Tuesday at 4:11 in the morning, my phone lights up with a message that simply says, I heard your voicemail. I'm not ready to talk, but keep trying. And I read it twice and don't correct the grammar of the universe. And months later, the number at the top of my screen will become my son's voice. And he will say, let's meet at the diner. And we will sit in that neon-lit Mercy and order pancakes. And I will tell him about the night when a passenger paid with words. And he will ask how I knew. And I will say it was the way the car felt taller and my fear could not reach the pedals. It was the way the city looked like it had just been washed. It was the way ordinary sentences turned into lifelines and nothing in me wanted to argue. And he will say, do you think it was an angel? And I will not say yes like a man signing for a package. I will say yes like a man tasting water after a desert. And he will nod and cut his pancakes into quarters. And we will both eat slow because hunger has changed its mind about us. And if you ask me whether the debt of that unpaid fare still burns, I will tell you the meter stopped the moment grace climbed in. I will tell you some balances are settled in a currency you cannot fold. And if you ask me whether I deserve any of this, I will say no in the best way. I will say it like a door left open. And if you are driving through your own night and your mind is a tangle of streets and none of them look like home, if you are a parent whose apology is still stuck behind your teeth, if you are a worker who thinks your usefulness is the last light the city forgot to turn off, then hear me, because the city taught me to speak softly so the truth can hear itself. There is a passenger coming who knows your name without knowing your wallet. There is a sentence already traveling toward you that will undo the knot you tied in the dark. There is a hand you cannot see that will steady the wheel long enough for you to take the first exit out of shame. And when the door opens and no one is there and the fare is unpaid and your eyes are wet and the sky looks different for no good reason, do not dismiss it. Do not audit it. Let it be the receipt you fold into your heart. And if you cannot hold it alone, come sit with us where stories live, because this is Faith Light Stories and I want to hear yours. Tell me where the night broke and where the morning started for you. Write your moment in the comments so another tired driver can find the map. And if this touched you, share it with someone who still keeps their blinds closed at noon. Like this video, subscribe so you won't miss the next story of Mercy walking unannounced into ordinary rooms. And keep a seat open in your life, because the next passenger might be an angel and the next mile might be home.